Welcome back. Today, we've got one of the cooler things from Alpha. So, do you remember how for a long ass time, we've basically been worried that Blizzard designing dungeons around Mythic Plus would kind of sterilize them? That anything that's just not, pull pack, nuke it down, pull pack, nuke it down, go, 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 that would be considered to be maybe too slow, or perhaps not core gameplay, or that just that cool factor couldn't really exist in a world where everything ultimately had to be a keystone dungeon. Well, the good news is, and especially in these examples, Blizzard have not let Mythic Plus stop them from cooking. One of the dungeons I'm going to show you today may legitimately be quite controversial, maybe because it's actually trying to be fun. And of the 6 dungeons that we've seen, that we've played so far in the alpha, 2 really stand out. Darkflame Cleft is maybe the hardest that Blizzard have ever cooked in a dungeon with the gameplay, which is hilarious because it's a Cobalt Mine, and the Dawnbreaker. The Dawnbreaker has got some of the just coolest setup for anything in WoW that isn't a raid, which is really damn impressive, just like today's sponsor is. We're going to come in clutch and solve a real problem. So, data leaks happen all the time, and like vultures very hungry for a meal, data brokers exist, and they exist to harvest that data. And that means that we have to deal with spam or, of course, worse things. Now, the good news is we have the legal right to be taken down from data brokers. But the downside is that takes hours, and that's actually where incogni.com/Bellular Warcraft come in, where they actually automate that process for you, and with code Bellular Warcraft, you get 60% off their annual plan. Now, I signed up a while back. Immediately, they found me in 48 data brokers, they sent 42 requests, and immediately completed 6. And checking more recently, they've sent 44, 6 are in progress, and 38 have been taken down. That is 38 spooky big lists that I'm not on. The most recent one was called Crosswalk Technologies. I went to their website, and their quote just said, "Dynamically monitors the digital behavior of over 100 million consumers worldwide." I don't want to be on that list. So, by keeping you off those lists, your data is more safe, you're more secure, you get fewer annoyances like spam mail, spam text, spam calls, and that sort of thing, and also they keep you off those creepy person tracking tools like being verified. Now, one of the downsides is even if you do your own takedown request, your data can just be scooped up again, and the good thing about Incogni is they take your data down and they keep it down by continually rescanning those brokers over time, all automatically. So you can give them a shot today at incogni.com/Bellular Warcraft, where code Bellular Warcraft gets you an exclusive 60% discount. Okay, let's kick it off with the Darkflame Cleft. This is a Cobalt Mine in the Ringing Deeps, and it starts off pretty normally, but immediately the very first boss shows that Blizzard understood the assignment. You're in a mine, so there are mine carts that kind of operate like Blackrock Foundry's Great Fight Operator Thogar. You have minecarts that come barreling down the tracks. And of course, you can tell because the track heats up, so you don't need a weak ore or anything, you just need your eyes. Anyway, they're carrying little workers that fixate on the player, so you might have already figured out where this is going. Your goal is to hit the workers with the minecarts before your team gets overwhelmed. So you drag them, stun them in place, knock them back, and just get them onto the tracks. Just whatever class utility you have, you use it to get those little lads onto the train tracks so they get destroyed. Now, this is not some sort of game-changing mechanic, but it's really fun, and it has a nice level of physicality that actually uses the boss room well. That's only our first boss. Our next boss is a fire elemental in a room that is full of candles. When you enter, you might notice the trash that you kill, that they're all smaller elementals, and that their death is what triggers the candles around the boss. It's a small detail, killing little guys and lighting up the candles, but it's a fun one, and one that of course draws your eyes to things that will be important for the boss fight. And the boss kind of owns too. So he douses all the candles, he throws fire at the players, and then he puts down an AoE covering the whole area. Unless, of course, you've done the obvious. You use the fire that he throws to relight the candles. Basically, a lit candle protects the, pizza slice of ground that it's on, so you basically step into that and then out. It's just really simple, it's clean, it just feels tangible. And my key lesson is that mechanics that use the actual dungeon environment, those are always way more fun to do. They make the Cobalt Mine feel like a Cobalt Mine. And of course, what's great here is well, you don't need a weak ore or anything. It's all self-evident. Of course you light the candle. That's the whole Cobalt thing. You can just make sense of it. Now, our next boss is a bit unremarkable. The Candle King makes wax molds out of your characters, which do look kind of goofy in a fun way, and you've got to melt them. But what comes after that is what kind of blows the mind. The whole time that kobolds have been obsessed with candles is no longer a silly gag, because it's actually a deep-rooted fear that their ancestors felt. They are fighting against the darkness, capital D. It's in this dungeon, and if you step out of the light, you can't damage or heal, right? So, point is, you need candle. You need candle to stay safe. But of course, there's a catch. Candles burn out. And this next segment is one of the more unique ones in WoW. It's basically you playing Team Fortress 2, escorting the payload, right? So you split your team into defense, stopping mobs from snuffing out the candles on your minecart, and then you've got the scouts in your team who will be going out to pick up wax from the shadows to bring it back so that you can keep the candle burning. But the second catch is the darkness is actually dark. You cannot see mobs in the dark areas until you're basically on top of them, so you either have to go slow or risk getting whacked, and of course then breaking a bunch of trash back to the party. And if the candle goes out, you're all useless until you relight it. It's really cool. This bit was just an absolute blast to do in alpha, even a normal difficulty. Like, doing this in Mythic 0, that is going to be challenging, it's going to be interesting, and it's not even the actual boss. Like, Blizzard have just went and they finally cooked up something that feels like a dungeon. Like, truly a dungeon, not just a slice of gameplay. It's real strong, and of course, it's not solvable via add-ons or a weak aura like the Mists of Tir Scythe Maze. It's just solid gameplay that uses, like, the core of game design well, right? It's all about the dungeon's environment and context. It just uses that to perfection. As does the final boss. I mean, to get to the final boss, we have been defending a candle. We've been keeping it lit so that we're not in the darkness, because when we're in the darkness, we're useless. The last boss uses this mechanic, except the difference here is that you need to move the candle around the place so that it doesn't get hit by his attacks, and then you've got to get somebody to grab more wax to keep the candle going. That's the core of the fight, and I suppose just for a little bit of fun, you get a minecart set piece before the fight starts, which itself is really cool. I mean, there's not all that much gameplay to it, though you can, reduce the darkness's HP a little bit. But what is neat about it, actually, is it's Blizzard doing some kind of cool pathing, because ultimately this dungeon is a nice little loop. It actually feels real efficient. So, where overall this wins is theme. It's all so thematic. It ties into the kobolds, the environment, the overarching story of being in the Ringing Deeps, where, like, the darkness itself is literally a dangerous thing, which, sort of does make the kobolds like funny little paladins where, they're little dudes worshipping the light, keeping safe. They also worship the sun, but let's not get into kobold lore. Point is, it slaps, as does the Dawnbreaker. The Dawnbreaker is the second part of today's video, and it goes way harder than it has any right to. I mean, do you remember the Siege of Borealis, right? Where the idea of the dungeon was that this whole city is under attack. Imagine that, but way, way, way better. So, the Dawnbreaker is an assault on Merildar by the Nightfall. These are basically Arathi Void cultists who believe in the dark aspect of Merildar. That is, so just so you're not confused here, Merildar, that is the city, and Bellular, that is the big light crystal thing that you've seen in all the screenshots, right? So they kind of worship the voidy part of it. They've allied themselves with the Nerubians and with Xal'atath, and they've basically went and taken over the city. So it's your job to take them back using the Dawnbreaker, which is the Arathi's main warship. And this is really cool. So you fight your way to the ship, you clear it out, and you take to the skies. You start by mounting up and flying to the enemy airships, where you're setting bombs on them and escaping so you don't go down with them, right? So all of this is happening when you're up in the air. Then the first boss lands on the ship and starts attacking you, and it is kind of fairly standard stuff here, at least until the boss decides to coat the entire ship in lethal darkness. You literally have nowhere to go on the Dawnbreaker. What you can do is you can mount up, you can fly away. So you fly away, you do a quick little loop, and you land when she's finished. Now, is that some crazy mechanic where you need to perfectly time a debuff or something and track it with a weak aura? No, it is, this airship is going to be screwed, I need to not be on it, and oh look, I can use my flying mount to get away, right? It's just core, gameplay. I mean, chasing Tindral was, fine, but there was really no gameplay to it, right? This is you dodging an attack in the actual fight. It's awesome. So that fight rocks. Unfortunately, in the middle, the dungeon gets just a little bit frustrating, but to be honest, I think this is just all kinks that can be worked out before it goes live. The core idea is you clear Merildar of lieutenants, enemy lieutenants, by dragon riding around the place, almost like a more complicated version of the third Nokku defensive boss. So you've got this Nerubian general that's patrolling, which means you can engage him at any time, but he is stronger with more of his allies alive. So basically, it feels like this kind of dangerous zone. You've got patrols, you've got a lot of mob density, and you got to take out these lieutenants and then kill the dude. That said, there are some problems. I think the mob density is actually just too high. That being said, what is cool here is that it feels like a proper battle to liberate the settlement. This is actually World of Warcraft feeling like a big video game, not just, the way like MMO stuff. It's like, oh yeah, I can see you're trying to do something cool, but fundamentally you're an MMO. You can't have spectacle. Like, no, that's not the case here. It actually does feel like a fight for the settlement. Now, if you die, you respawn on the Dawnbreaker, which again does make the whole thing feel like a proper assault from a flying fortress where, I mean, I don't know, is it like Plunderstorm or PUBG? Where are we dropping, boys? It's a little bit of that. The last boss, though, is where things get real awesome again. So this really big dude attacks your ship, and you've got to defend your ship from the dude. Now, this dude has got this like new type of mechanic and a new type of indicator. It's for his acid wave attack. And you can really see that this is part of Blizzard trying to upgrade their visual language, right? So that essentially attacks in dungeons and raids are more thematic, but also more visually clear. I really, really appreciate that. Now, this guy is too big for you to really fight, so the Arathi help you by essentially prepping bombs to toss at him. And then begins the chase. Bereldar's dark aspect has been empowered, so being out in the dark will literally kill you, but the boss flees and you've got to chase him down. So you and your party get Arathi lamplighters on little mini airships to guide you while you follow the boss, while you chase him down to his last stand and then eventually get to kill him. Now, this one might be a little bit annoying, again, if the mob placement isn't a bit more fair in the city, if it isn't a bit more clear. But what's neat here is the proper use of the in-game ping system so that the tank can say ping where they're going to drop. Like, it's really good there for, like, I suppose, player communication. But ultimately, where we were left after this dungeon is this is another contender for the best dungeon Blizzard have ever made. Again, like, from an overall, this is a slice of awesome video game. This is a memorable gaming experience, like that side of things. And I suppose somehow this also works with the whole follower dungeons thing, which really does seem like it would have been a pain in the ass to code. Anyway, look, there are some concerns about Mythic Plus, and the good news is it does look like Blizzard have heard that because, and honestly, that just makes me so happy. With Mythic Plus being a real big part of the game, there was just a worry that Blizzard would strip back the dungeons, that they would not really feel like they were able to just go out there and have more interesting ideas. But no, that's not the case. They are perfectly willing to just make content that goes hard. Now, let's talk about some other stuff. The other Hallowfall dungeon owns as well. It's called the Priory of the Sacred Flame, and it's definitely more of a standard sort of dungeon, but it's a standard dungeon taken to the extreme. It feels like Scarlet Monastery 3.0, like bigger, better, just a sense of scale and grandeur that is off the charts. And again, that just kind of reinforces one of the things that's been strong so far. The sense of, I think, spectacle and fantasy that is on display here, just like from a creative level, it is real strong. I think it's one of those things they had been missing a little bit in more recent times. So that just makes me happy. And really, the point of today's video is just to share a bit of that hype from the alpha. I really do think we're seeing some of the best dungeons in a long-ass time in the War Within. I know for a lot of people, they might see this and think, oh my god, I can see all the reasons why things are not going to be great. To that I say, they need to make a bloody brilliant video game first. And the more that Blizzard are limited by some of the constraints that have held them back, then the less that World of Warcraft grows. Fundamentally, as somebody who plays video games, like video games overall, these dungeons are exciting. They really are. And of course, we haven't even seen all of them yet. So actually, as we're moving into Azj-Kahet, I am really excited to just see more dungeons. Because usually, look, I just kind of think, oh yeah, it's the alpha. It's dungeons. Whenever a new expansion happens, what do? You see oh, a raid, 4 zones, 8 dungeons. And you're like, oh, great, we always get. But actually here, 8 dungeons is something that I'm more and more excited by, because the dungeons are really damn good. So, that's basically it for this video. Honestly, I just thought this stuff was awesome. And yeah, that's kind of our feedback. There's definitely issues to fix. I mean, some of the patrols, they seem to load in using like different distance logic than bosses or lieutenants do in in the Dawnbreaker, so that needs to be fixed up. They definitely need to take a look at like the density of mobs. But hey, those are very fixable things. It's literally the point of the alpha. Fundamentally, though, it's like this has got the sauce, and that makes me kind of hype. Anyway, check out this video next. It will be great. Now that I've made that claim, thank you for watching. It's fun to hang out, and I'll see you back here next time.